Hi guys, welcome back to the Mission Empowered podcast with me, your host Emily. Hope you're okay. Hope you're okay. Right, so fingers crossed well, it's not off to a good start. What are we, 11 seconds in? I've already messed up 2 words. It's 6 p.m. The podcast normally gets recorded in the morning, but I've had a bit of a day. I really hope I'm not coming down with something. I'm absolutely just like off the ball. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Just like no va-va-voom. But whoops, I do always have to do my podcast on a Wednesday. So I've had a little resty afternoon and I'm here and we're doing it and we're going to bring it to you. Stark contrast to last week where I had washed my hair, straightened my hair, put makeup on. I think I even had lashes on. And today we are getting the Barefaced Beauty. Well, I was just smiling in case everyone was watching this on camera. Did you know? I know this goes out on YouTube, but you can watch it on see what I mean. Did you know you can watch this on YouTube as well? So I know you can watch it on Spotify, and Apple, but I actually uploaded it to YouTube as well. I don't know why. I feel like the camera looks bigger on YouTube because I watch some stuff on YouTube when I'm doing my cardio and stuff. So there we go. Fun fact of the day for you. I am putting myself everywhere, no makeup and all. So, and I've also got my blue light blockers on. If anyone's thinking you don't wear glasses, stop trying to be fashion forward. Trust me, hon, that's not what I'm doing. After sitting on screens and stuff a lot of the time, I get like dry eyes. So if anyone else gets like dry eyes, being on the screen all the time, blue light blocking glasses are really good for an evening. Just helps you protect your eyes because I get like sore eyes, dry eyes, all that lovely stuff. Right, should we just get on with this podcast of what we're all here to listen to? I think so. Okay, so this week's podcast is all about why classes don't work for getting the results that we want, okay? And I feel like I am going to do a little bit of a disclaimer and say I am not saying that you shouldn't go to fitness classes, okay? I'm going to start with that because I think there is definitely a place because it pushes us to be social. Okay, we make friends there. You know, we sometimes if it's a case of going to the gym and not going, or go like between like not doing anything or going to a class, I would much rather you go to a class. But this episode is going to be about why classes aren't optimal over the gym for getting results, and I'm going to firstly talk about like my experience, because I started my fitness career teaching classes. I loved it, and you know what? I still love it now. And I know you're probably thinking, well, hang on, contradicting yourself or what? But like I said, that before I go into my experience, should we talk about that? You can tell I'm really good on my notes, can't you? I just write things down. I'm like, I'll just do it in whatever order comes natural. Okay, so let's talk about them. Before I talk about my experience, so don't sound like contradicting myself, let's talk about why the positives of classes. So the positives of fitness classes, like I said, the biggest one for me is being social. Okay, really, really is. You go, you see your mates, you make friends here, you feel good. Like that's still amazing for us, amazing for our mental health. Okay, great for fitness. I think a lot of classes push you to, and I know this from speaking to clients and stuff as well. Like, will push you to, if you have a good instructor, push you to push yourself to where maybe you wouldn't push yourself prior to that. Okay, so great for cardiovascular fitness, great for leaving feeling like a sense of achievement. And this is why I don't want you to listen to this podcast and think, fucking, I'm never going to a class again. Okay, because there is a place. And I think, if anyone follows me on Instagram, you'll know that I've been like a keen CrossFit. I've come up to 6 or 7 years now. That is a class environment, and I know that I intertwine CrossFit into my like bodybuilding isolation training because I like that social aspect. I like the pushing aspect. I like what it does for my cardiovascular. And CrossFit is a bit of a hybrid of like classes because they do have tailored programming. We're going to get to that in a minute. So yeah, there is my little opener of please don't listen to this and think I am slagging off classes and I don't ever want you to go to a class again, because I don't. I think there's definitely a place for them. This podcast is going to open your eyes possibly to the frustration you're feeling, or maybe past experience where you've done 3 months, 6 months of going to classes 5 days a week, yada, 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 and still not got to where you want. Like, I'm going to open your eyes to why that is, and to maybe the results that you're after, why doing classes as your primary source of workout isn't getting you the results that you want. So let's talk about my experience, as I said. So bit of background, I have spoke about before, and I'll touch on again. I started my fitness career teaching classes. Oh my God, I loved it. Any class that was going, I was teaching. So aqua class, spinning, got myself quite a good reputation, I think, of teaching classes. Anyone who listens to the pod who's from my old teaching days, if you're out there, please drop me a message and let me know that you're listening, 'cause I love that. But yeah, so aerobics, boot camps, circuits. What else do you used to do? Legs, bums and tums. I used to teach a class called Nifty 50s. It was fucking boss. Actually, do you know what? What was it? Was it Nifty 50s or was there another one? Can't remember. But anyway, the girls, the women who used to come to that class, who were in like their 60s and their 70s, inspos, absolute inspos. I thought, you're my goals when I'm 67. They used to come. They used to do like my class. Then we'd do an aqua class. Then they'd sit and have coffee. And I think, what a life. Your boss. So yeah, I used to teach all the classes. I never did any of the Les Mills stuff because it was too cringe for me back then, still is now. I still can't believe it's going, to be honest with you. But like counting to the music and the character used to give me the ick. It still gives me the ick now. I remember I used to teach they brought out like a certain style. It was called like grit, if anyone remembers that. And I did the course, and you had to learn a routine. And I remember the woman on the course, I said to her, you know, if like you just want to take the concept of this and like put your own spin on it, can we do that? Fucking hell. You'd think I'd asked her if I could have her firstborn. She was like, no, what would be the point? What would be the point of creating this amazing course if you were then going to change it? Do you think you're better than Les Mills? Anyway, turns out that's exactly what I did, and my classes were more popular than the other ones, so whatever her name was. But yeah, so did all the classes, and I remember even back then, I genuinely was teaching probably 15 to 20 classes a week, and still not in the shape that I was in later on down the line when I took my training seriously. So, but yes, classes anyway, great for meeting people, great for socializing, great for cardiovascular. Also have been in the boat where I used to do 3 classes on the bounce, attending them. I would teach over 20 classes a week and still wouldn't get the results. Baffling, I know. So yeah, so that's my experience of classes. And then from a different side of it, I remember you would have them people that turned up to your classes day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. You'd see them, they'd go to every class, and you would speak to them, they would say, I'm still trying to lose weight, and still 3 years later, I'm still trying to lose weight, I'm still trying to do this. You would think that we'd have clocked on something wasn't working, wouldn't you? And still, so that was, how old am I now? So I'm going to be 35 on Saturday. Drop that in. So I'm going to be 35 on Saturday. This was when I was 17. So without doing the maths, fucking ages ago, right? But I still see that now. I still see people now saying, oh, exercise isn't my problem. You know, I go to all these classes. I need someone to tell me what to do when I'm there. Otherwise, I won't go to the gym. I'm like, that's your problem. Anyway, but yeah, I still see now. I do all these classes, 2 classes on a Monday, three classes on a Thursday, and they're not getting the results. Put them in a gym scenario. Gym scenario. Put them in a gym scenario and get them to do these slower, more concentrated exercises, and they're absolutely goose. So we'll talk about that now. But yeah, that's my experience then of teaching classes and seeing people be in maybe the position that you're in, that you were going to all these classes and just not getting them results and being frustrated. Why? So why is it then that classes don't work? Well, the first point I'm going to make, actually, weirdly, isn't about the classes, but it's about how they make you feel. So when we go to a classes, I know a lot of the instructors, or a lot of the ideology around the classes is how much it's going to make you sweat, how much it's going to burn your calories, how much, well, yeah, them 2 things basically. But I know that they're pushing that to people as if to say, like, this is what's going to help you lose weight. And it's sort of idolizing that the workout is going to be better for you than, they don't mention like desire. Whereas I'm very clear when I do my Instagram, when I speak to my clients, I'm like, look, we've got to be on this, like 70-80% food and behavior change, and then 20-30% pushing it in workouts. Okay, like there is no one or the other. It's every piece of the puzzle has its own place. Whereas I feel like when we go to classes or you're in a as a boot camp instructor, they are very pushy about the exercise and burning this calories and look how hard everyone's working. And then you leave with that feeling of, I've burnt 500 calories and, not then giving a shit about your food or not really prioritizing your food. Maybe you're eating healthy, but not tracking your food. And that for me is like one of the biggest problems is that with whatever workout you choose to do, when it comes to getting physical results, the food is always going to play a bigger part. Matter of fact. Not what you want to hear, because I know you want to go to the gym and kill yourself for an hour and think, well, that's fine. And, I don't have to do anything. I was brought up with that mentality from my gorgeous dad, that's probably why I got into the gym at the young age I did, like, because he wasn't educated in how important food and stuff was. If you haven't listened, by the way, girls, you haven't listened to my fat loss mistakes from Christmas, just before Christmas, it's really funny. And it just goes into everything that I used to do wrong. Go listen to that. Anyway, so like I said, my biggest probably pet peeve or point number one about classes is they push to make you feel like whatever you do in this class is going to counteract like your food and stuff, and it's not. Okay. The problem with that is that, yes, you will probably push yourself more in a class because you've got that. Number one, you're surrounded by people who are maybe pushing to that level 8, 9, and 10. You've got an instructor, possibly with a fancy head mic. I used to fucking love wearing one of them. You can imagine me, girls, with one of them headsets on, feeling like, pop star. Anyway, so I used to love wearing my headset. Anyway, yes, so you've got your class instructor with the headset shouting at you. I used to be that person. Come on, one more, you can do it. Like, that is amazing. But the caveat to that is, especially in fat loss, right? When you push yourself to a really maximal effort, what happens after that is your body needs to recover. When we push ourselves to that point of, especially with cardiovascular and anaerobic workouts, your body is going to need to recover which so quickly. So it's going to send a signal that you are hungry, and it's going to send that signal that we need to refuel. And what is our body's preferential form of fuel? Carbohydrates. Okay, so that is why when we are hungry, especially after the gym, we are like, oh my God, I'm going to smash this salad. You watch me go. Nah. Okay. And again, we're like, especially if you leave the gym and you've got a 15-20 minute drive and you go home and you're ravenous, it is very likely that window between cooking your tea and eating your tea is where the biscuits, the handful of cereal, the slice of bread. I've been there. I know this. And again, not your fault. Push yourself in the gym, absolutely smashed it. But that refuel signal is what's spiking, okay? So this is why when we talk about, and how I'm probably going to run these pointers, which I've just thought of now, I'm going to tell you like the class scenario and then the scenario I would recommend. So yes, pushing yourself in classes is going to lead to that peak in hunger and refuel and wanting for carbs, okay? Versus when we're doing like what I recommend for like best fat loss, best physique result is like your weight training. Okay, so weight training is a completely different tax on your body. Okay, you're not pushing to the point of where you're like it's yes, it's taxing, yes, you might feel shaken, but it's a lot steadier. Okay, so you're not going to have that straight after. I mean, sometimes I do, but not normally straight after like you would do after doing like a HIIT class or a spin class. Okay, and because we're not normally to the point of like sweating versus a spin class versus a weight session, again, it's that mental point of people thinking, I'm sweating, I've burnt X amount of calories because my watch says so, which we don't count anyway, but my watch says so, therefore I'm going to eat X, Y, and Z. You don't get that with weight training. But what you do get with weight training is that muscle fibers breaking down, that needing to repair. Okay, that increase in metabolism when we have thicker, denser muscle tone. So we get that with our resistance training. And then again, what I recommend for my clients to do when they're doing fat loss, best form of cardio, steppies. You can get steps in, okay? Because you don't come back from a half an hour walk absolutely fucking ravenous and ready to smash your biscuits in like you would do at a 30-minute hit session, okay? You just don't do ya. And again, it's just to do with that. It's that perception of I've burnt X amount of calories, therefore I'm going to eat this. And I'm not saying that we choose to have that perception. It is built into us. But that's why for fat loss, I am literally like, you can do weight training and steps. If you want to choose cardio on top of it, I recommend to do medium intensity, low intensity. So the Stairmaster, I'm just a sucker for it. I love it. I feel like it's really good for your cardio. You can stay on it for a while, but you're not absolutely gassed and needing to stop, okay? Girls, I am talking about physical results here, okay? I'm always going to circle back to point one. If you are looking to improve your cardiovascular system, awesome. Classes can be great for that. But improving your cardiovascular system and achieving a certain physical result, they are different goals. I'm not saying you can't build one into one into the other and incorporate it. You can. But when we're talking about the majority of people that I speak to and listen to this podcast, I know that actually want to change their physique, not necessarily more than they want to be fit, but it is a big goal to them. And I think what I want to highlight here is, like I said, it's not dissing the classes, but it's highlighting why you get pushing to the point of exertion 10 out of 10, 5 times a week isn't getting you the results. So I went around the houses there and I love that because I've totally forgot where I was leading to. But yeah, so with the cardio, like I said, steady state and weight training and steps and food for me, it just seems more manageable. It's just not like that overwhelming factor. But as I said, the reason I like CrossFit and intertwine CrossFit is because at the moment, so how I work my training, anyone that cares, I do 3 weight training, 3 CrossFit. So train 6 times a week. And my weight training, I tag on some steady state afterwards because I just love that feeling of being fit. What I do is definitely choosing more of like a lifestyle to be fit, to feel above average. I'm not even blowing my own trumpet or apologizing for that, but I like to feel fit. Like it's definitely a trait of mine that I love. So for me, I know that requires to do a bit more when it comes to like, how I train my clients. If they just want to, if it depends on time, kids, whatever, they don't have to do all of that. I will recommend the weights, the steps, the steady state. But the way I train is I like to do my resistance training because I like to have that focus time. I like to work on muscle groups, which we'll talk about in a second. And the reason I like to do CrossFit is because I like to push myself. The CrossFit aspect to me is I enjoy learning about Olympic weightlifting. And I enjoy pushing myself to the extreme of, CrossFit is like the running, the burpees, the gymnastic side of things, that fitness side. That's what I love. But I also know from doing wedding prep, hen do prep, photo shoot prep, that I got better results intertwining bodybuilding training with CrossFit training. Now, I probably would have seen even better results if I solely did the resistance training and no CrossFit. But as I said before, I love that fitness side. That for me is the enjoyment side. And this is what we've got to be on, girls, is that we could, and really big focal point that I try and take home on these podcasts is we can look at what's optimal and what's ideal, but then we need to look at what's realistic. They're two very different, two opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think we get so focused on, I'm just going to do the ideal, I'm just going to do the optimal. That's why we can't stick to it, because we need to look at, okay, but what's real, what's realistic? And for me, just doing the bodybuilding training, I didn't love it, didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed part of it, but I enjoyed the CrossFit. Just doing the CrossFit wasn't getting me the results that I wanted. So just doing that wasn't making me happy either. So it's looking at is what's going to make you happy. And I think this is what I want to say, the take home from doing the classes. If the classes, doing solely the classes, isn't making you happy because it's not getting you the physical results, it's looking at intertwining that with the type of workouts that are going to get you results. Okay, so let's move on then to that is for me, by the way. Let's move on. Close that now. So let's move on to a couple of different points and I've got written down here. So 3 different points I've got written down why the classes aren't working. So the number 1 we covered was about the food. The number 2 was about the pushing and the cardiovascular, and increasing that. There's no, for me, or what I know, there's lack in structure of classes, okay? And again, I have been that class instructor for 15 years, 10 years, 15 years, 10 years I was that class instructor. People came to my classes because they were fun. They were different every week. So they would come, they wouldn't know what they were expecting, they wouldn't have to think about it. Like, that was part of the selling point of the classes, is that people wouldn't get in bunny ears bored. But what gets us results is the boring stuff. I say boring stuff loosely. Like, it doesn't have to be boring. I'm going to say repetitive. Okay. You need repetition to get physical results, point blank. Okay. You need to do a hinge movement, a squat movement, a push, a pull. You need to repeat them movements. And there is only a certain number of like really good standard movements that we should have in every training program. Deadlifts are great, squats are great, split squats, lunges, shoulder press. There's not been a week in the past 5 years that I've not done a shoulder press. It's my favorite exercise of all time. But yeah, we need to like repetitiveness and progressive overload. So we take them movements, them standard good movements, and we learn to progress them each week, whether that's with improving our form, whether that is slowing our tempo down, whether that's adding more weight on, adding more sets on, decreasing rest time. Progressive overload is really important. And that is a key thing that is missing out of classes, is that you turn up to a class and let's say you're going to a legs, bums and tums class. Okay. You know what? I'll just use what I used to do. So I used to do a lot of my classes in like circuit training style. It helped me because I could either stand in the middle of the room and clock what everyone's doing. Or it would just give me more freedom. So legs, bums and tums, I would maybe do one circuit of legs, one circuit on glutes, one circuit on abs. Okay. The following week, I might do, okay, so we're going to do a lower exercise, an upper exercise, an ab exercise, and then have like 3 different sections on repeat to that. Like every single session, I would be like, right, what's this class going to be? And I would love it. This is why I still love teaching now, because it would make me be creative. But what it wasn't doing is putting my clients' physical results at the forefront of it. And that's because I didn't know. This is before I did all my research, before I did all like my coaching development stuff. Like I was a great PT because I was motivated, I was safe, I was, I was encouraging, and I was passionate. Like that makes a good PT. But you have to have this element of an edge. To be a great PT and to get them results, you need to have that element of education and backing why you're doing what you're doing. So now, me being a coach, my clients who are coming to me from a class background will say, can I change my workouts after like 3 weeks with no progressive overload? And I have to explain to them why. And a couple of my girls listen to this will be like, oh, you've had that conversation with me. I have to explain to them that the best program that you can do is the one that probably you can repeat the longest and continue every week to get better at, because you'll have the most repetitiveness from it. You'll have the most growth from it. You'll have the most adaptation from it. So me at the moment, I think I've been doing this program that I'm on now, definitely since before Christmas, since like maybe November. I'm still really happy with it. I'm still progressing in it. I track all my work. I track all my loads, my reps. Couple of exercises I might have tweaked a little bit and changed deadlift to sumo deadlifts, but still the same variation, So I practice what I preach because I know that it works. And again, with the classes, there is no structure, there is no progressive overload. And whether that is, I don't know whether that is lack of education or it's because they're dipping into people coming to them classes because they don't want repetitiveness. But again, that is that fine line between not telling your clients or not telling your class goers, this is what we need to do to get results, versus just keeping them entertained and being honest with them about that. So yeah, one of my things with classes is there doesn't seem to be a lot of structure, or there's no progressive overload, especially in cardio classes that people are going to thinking, well, if I go to spin 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, well, in a month, surely I'm gonna have lost weight. But all of these points that I'm circling through, go into a spin class, which massively makes you feel hungrier afterwards, gets you sweating. Are you really thinking about your food? Because here's the thing, right? Fat loss comes down to a calorie deficit, energy in versus energy out. If you're doing that via food, you can do whatever class you want, okay? Because you'll drop weight, you'll lose fat because you're in a calorie deficit. If you want to lose fat though and have muscle tone, a stronger core, better posture, you're not going to get that from the spin classes, the HIIT classes, okay? Even like the body pump classes. So anyone who's done like body pump or toning classes, I know the equipment that you get in there is like a bar which weighs nothing, or 1 kilogram, and then like the maximum is like 2 10 kilograms, like 20 kilograms, which I know seems like a lot, and it can be a lot. It absolutely can be, depending where you're starting. But at some point, you using 2 10 kilogram plates to do your legs and to do your upper body is off, okay? Because your legs are stronger than your upper body. So I can deadlift 100 kilograms. Well, I can't fucking overhead press 100 kilograms, because my legs are stronger. So it's that sort of context when we look at classes that, again, doing the backgrounds I have, grab your weights, guys. You pick the 5s. You're lunging with 5s. You're pressing with 5s. You're rowing with 5s. You're squatting with 5s. It's not going to work because it's not specific enough to what you need. So that's that point. No structure, no progressive overload. Okay. So as I said, I wish you could link podcasts. There's a podcast I've done called How to Get Toned, to go and listen to that, because I delve into not necessarily why classes don't work as much, but just straight into what helps you get to homes. Whereas what I'm trying to do here is highlight that and relieve that frustration of what we're doing in classes, why it's not working versus what we need. So we need structure, we need progressive overload to have that shape change, to have that muscle tone. We don't tend to get that from classes. Okay, so this is going to be coach dependent, okay? But what I've seen, again, can only go from experience, is bad technique has come from classes. Now, I am going to partly blame the instructors, but partly not. Because if you're an instructor, and you're standing at the top of your class and you're doing the best explanation ever of how to safely deadlift, out of 30 people in your class, of course there are going to be people who get it wrong. Of course there are. I work one-to-one with my clients, and sometimes we're sending the same video like 3 weeks because it's just a coaching cue that they're missing. And I know that, and that's no one's fault. It's how we interpret it and how long it takes to get us. So partly, I do think there are lazy instructors that actually teach bad technique. I've seen them because my clients have come to me. They told me they've had PTs. I'm like, fucking hell, were they blind? Like, no. And then I've also had clients come from classes and do the technique wrong. And I'm like, well, how did they used to teach us deadlift? And they would be like, they just used to say deadlift. Amazing. So I think it's dependent. But the reason I talk about technique is, if we're not performing an exercise with the right muscles in the right way, how are we expecting our bodies to adapt and change? We're not. So technique and not having anyone critiquing our technique is a huge part of why classes don't work versus being in the gym. Because being in the gym, you can record yourself. You can't really record yourself in a class, but you can record yourself in a gym. You either send it to your coach, you show your PT. If you don't have any of them, you go onto YouTube, you find the exercise that you're doing, and you compare yourself to that video and go, okay, do I look like that? Again, with the technique thing, is thinking about it's thinking about it. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you're in a class and they say, right, guys, we've got 30 seconds of deadlifts, go, or 30 seconds of press ups, and there's pumping fucking happy hardcore in your ear, and you're like, boom, boom, boom. Like, you're not thinking about, is my core tight? Are my shoulders aligned properly? Am I hitting depth? You're not thinking about that. And I know that because I used to be a class instructor, and yeah, and again, I hold my hands up. I genuinely think I am a great coach. I think I'm a great PT. I think I was a great class instructor. But whatever, because I was very hands-on, and I'm still like, what's the word? Online hands-on. Like, my clients have to send me technique videos because I know how important it is. But when I used to teach classes, I would walk up to people and say, is it okay if I just readjust your hips? Or, give them a physical cue and say, squeeze my fingers on the way up, or keep your elbows tucked in here. Like, I was very on it with technique. But also I know that was so draining and so taxing. And I know that there's lazy instructors out there because I've worked with a lot of them. So again, but the thing with the technique is, if you're not being looked after, you are literally missing such a big trick on helping your results develop. But you haven't got time for it in class. Music, you might have one instructor for 30, 50, 100 people. You might be copying someone else because she looks better. In your eyes, you think, oh, she looks good. I'll just copy what she's doing. But I'm telling you now, I have seen so many gorgeous, fit girls in the gym doing an exercise wrong. And that is a big trigger, not a big trigger, but that is like a big thing for me that I think I always want to recommend to my Instagram followers, to you guys, is that please don't go off what people look like in the gym. They can be what we would deem the most out of shape, but be the most fucking knowledgeable and performing an exercise incredibly well. But we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, versus someone else, or we might deem, oh God, she's really in shape, like she must know what she's doing, but actually be doing it wrong. That's probably one of my biggest pet peeves of the fitness industry. Such a driven, like, we're so judgy. Anyway, and I'm doing a podcast on why class didn't work. Anyway, right. So yeah, no technique. Oh God, I've done it all backwards. And then we've covered. Okay, last one. Then we sort of touched on this in the progressive overload, but not having enough weight, equipment, or like isolation to target the areas we want to work. So, for example, if we were like, let's talk about what everyone's banging on about now. They want a better bum, right? So if you want a better bum, better legs, you need to be having that variation, like I said before, of a deadlift, a squat, a squat, a lunge, maybe some like isolation where, like an abduction machine where you're really isolating your glutes, maybe a hip thrust. If you're in a gym, if you're in a class environment and you're very limited to maybe like a barbell, a band and dumbbells, there are some exercises you'll absolutely be able to do, but there is not enough load or variation to make that like the best workout continuously. So I'm not saying like, if you train glutes and then go to a glute class on top of it, I'm not saying you're not going to see results with that because you're training glutes outside of it. But if you're going to glutey pump class 30 minutes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're really going to lack in results because of the equipment that's limited to it. Because again, just anything we want to do when it comes to getting toned and getting in shape, we need to be girls lifting heavy, lifting with good technique, doing progressive overload, tracking our progress, making a log of how many reps did I do, what weight did I do, how many sets did I do, and logging it. And I think I've just said this, but last thing, repeating, so we can get better and our bodies can adapt, our muscles can adapt. That is what we need to be doing to get toned. That is why you will very rarely see, and I use bodybuilders as a comparison a lot, because what we're doing when we try and get toned, we try and change our shape is like a slither of the cake that they're doing. It's still, the principles are still the same, but you'll never see a bodybuilder doing a body pump class in prep for their competition because it doesn't work. And for physical, that's what I want to say. So I think we'll leave it there because I've been waffling for half an hour. It's quite long, isn't it? I didn't think it was going to be long, this one. But I am going to end this podcast in the way that I started it. For me, there is absolutely a place for fitness classes. And I think if it's the case of you wanting fat loss, just fat loss, and you're like, do you know what, I'm not bothered about building muscle, do your calorie deficit with your food and enjoy your classes. You'll You will achieve fat loss because you'll be in a calorie deficit and you'll enjoy your training, you'll probably get fitter. If you want shape change and you want to be toned and you want to be tighter, you need to be mixing it up. You can't rely on classes to do that. And I feel like this possibly might ruffle some feathers, this podcast, but I hope it lands that I'm saying like there is a place for it. But what I want to do is I don't want people to be frustrated, and I don't want people to feel like, what am I doing wrong? What is the trick that I'm missing? Because I'm going to these classes, this instructor's telling me I'm burning 500 calories and I'm missing it. Well, now you know that doing classes, killing yourself in classes every single week, down to outers, could be hindering your fat loss if you're not tracking your food. But also at the same time, if we're not lifting heavy enough, our technique is off, we're not progressing in our weight, in our form, that's why you're not getting results. So go and listen. If you found this a bit of an eye-opener and you want to learn more, go and listen to the Get Toned podcast, okay? If you want a bit more help on this, I always recommend to get into this is get yourself a coach and have a chat with them about what you're doing wrong and what they recommend to go forward. And that can be me or maybe someone else that you follow. But if it's me @_em.powered, I would love to have a chat with you. But I really hope this podcast landed well and opened your eyes to maybe trying something different and being less frustrated. So, girlies, thank you so much. I hope it was okay for our 6:30 podcast. But thank you so much for listening and as always giving me your time, and I will catch up with you on next week's pod. Have a good one and love you. Bye.